record in the cloud. Hello and welcome to the Environmental Rotary Club of Puget Sound. My name is Kimberly Peterson and I am the president of the Environmental Rotary Club of Puget Sound. And I call this meeting to order. So we will start with introductions and you can say your name and say one good thing that happened to you this week. My name is Kimberly Peterson from the Environmental Rotary Club of Puget Sound, and I am very excited that my Halloween costume will in fact arrive before Halloween, if all goes well. I'm going to be a lion, so I'm very proud of my lion eye makeup. Who should we have next? Is Janice here? No, not yet. Let's go to Kristina Buckley, or Kristina Hadding. I'm so sorry, I keep doing that. Kristina Hadding.
It's only been 5 years, Kim. So I'm Kristina Hadding, and I am the secretary of the Environmental Rotary Club of Puget Sound, and very excited to be here today. Missed last week, so excited to be back.
I'm glad you're feeling better. Excellent. And then next, who should we have? Douglas Carl, would you care to go next?
Okay. What happened good this week? Every day.
Well, tell us your name.
Oh, Douglas Hogan. And what happened really cool was I found a 5-gallon bucket of paint so I could match a paint color that had been on for a couple of years, and I didn't have to pick up more. So that was really lovely. Yay! Yes.
Excellent. And then we'll go to Pauline.
Hello. Colleen Buckley, mentor to the treasurer. I love to say that. I think it always makes me laugh. What happened great this week is Herb and I have hired an art teacher that is also an organizer, and she's helping us go through the stuff in our garage, in our laundry room, and we started sorting photos last night, and it was just so fun. We ran across our wedding photo and our first anniversary trip photos.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was really fun to look at those.
Excellent. And
how many years ago was that?
41.
Whoa,
wow.
Way to go. Cool.
That's something to celebrate. Herb.
Yeah,
that's a hard act to follow, I gotta say.
Yeah, always. That's my curse, my blessing. So Herb Bowie, I guess you can tell who I'm married to, and we live in North Seattle. Something good that happened to me was our son came over on Saturday morning to watch Michigan football with me. We're both Michigan alums, University of Michigan, and so the Wolverines won another football game. So that was what good happened to me this week.
Excellent. All right, I still don't see Janice, so I think we'll now go to members. So I'll go in order of the boxes as they appear in my Zoom. Lisa.
I love that I'm being called a member, even though I haven't filled out my paperwork yet, but I will.
Members and supporters.
Yeah, right, soon to be members. A really exciting thing that happened for me this week, I'm also phoning in from North Seattle, Ballard area, is that some of the impetus for the work that I'm going to share with you later, one of a key milestone was presenting at a conference of improvisers. And I had a fantastic experience collaborating with Bobby Block and Karen Strong. Bobby's been able to join me here today, so she'll introduce herself in a second. But it went really, really well. And so I'm very excited that things are starting to really take shape with this initiative.
Excellent. Krista, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Kristina Dalton. I'm a visitor. I was not on video 2 weeks ago, so I thought it would be great to show up on video this time. What happened great for me is during the storm, I did not lose power or have my basement flooded. So I'm pretty grateful for Mother Nature's cooperation.
That's amazing. Welcome back. We're happy to see you. All right, Christina's done. Herb is done. Ellen, please go next.
What happened good to me today was my dad's in a nursing home in New Jersey. He's almost 102. And the hospice folks video chat us once a week. And there's many times where he doesn't say anything at all, and it's quite uncomfortable. But today we had like a 45-minute back and forth, sort of looping conversations. Yeah, I know, Bobby. It's really something. So I was really happy. He looked good.
That's wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that.
Thank you.
All right, Bobby Block, welcome.
Hello. What nice folks everybody seems to be. Thank you for inviting me into this space where I don't know anyone. So yes, I live in Philadelphia and I collaborate with Lisa, who has brought me along for the ride. I do something called applied improvisation, which is using the skills of the improviser to teach communication skills and other skills to people who are not performing on stage. Yeah, I collaborated with Lisa on this program, as she told you about. But another fun thing that happened to me this week is that I played drums in a Brazilian samba band, and we got to perform at an outdoor concert on Friday night, and it was really awesome.
That sounds marvelous. Welcome. We're so glad you're here. Anne, would you care to go next? Anne Bustamante? Are you there? Perhaps she is indisposed. Eric, you already gave a brief introduction, but would you care to introduce yourself?
Hello again, Eric Christensen, and I'm here in Bothell, Washington, just north of Seattle.
Excellent. Very good. James, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I'm James Leonard from Shoreline, just north of Seattle. And like Lisa, I am a volunteer at Woodland Park Zoo. So a good thing that happened to me yesterday is I got to have a fun time volunteering at the zoo yesterday. And I got to come home to restored power because I did lose power during the recent storm.
Excellent. That's wonderful all around. Amazing. Now the boxes are moving around, so I'm working hard to figure it out. Saman, welcome.
Hi, my name is Saman Sharadi, and I work on like food forest, and I'm trying to like get rid of grasslands as much as possible and replace them with wonderful food forests. And a good thing that happened to me was that I was working on my front yard, and a neighbor asked for my help to turn her backyard from grassland to food forests, which is wonderful. And we're gonna work on that next month. So yeah.
That's wonderful. We're so happy you joined us.
Thank you.
Let me make sure I'm not leaving anyone. Ellen Segal, you have not introduced yourself, correct? Oh wait, you have.
I did.
You did. Okay, sorry. The boxes are moving and I'm trying to keep track.
Judy?
Maddie, last, not at all least, welcome.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maddie Price, she, her. I live in North Beacon Hill in Seattle and work with Harvest Against Hunger, the Rotary nonprofit Rotary program of the district. And good thing happened to me recently was some successful pumpkin picking over the weekend at Ceres Farm in Redmond.
That sounds delightful. Thank you so much. Janice, welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Let's see here.
Hello.
I'm Janice Hogan. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to have power back on at my business, and it's a good day.
That's marvelous. Anne, are you available now? Going once, going twice?
Really, I did not have a chance yet.
Oh, I am so sorry.
That's okay.
I apologize sincerely.
No problem, no problem. I know the boxes move. I've been watching them too. Hi, everybody. I'm Judy McCulley. I live in North Seattle in the shoreline area. I have a strong interest in forest restoration and have been involved in a local project to help restore one of our parks here in Shoreline that's just down the street from us. And one of the fun things that I was able to do this week is a group of students, 12 of them from Shorecrest High School, who are part of a Rotary Interact Club. That's a service club that we hosted at local high schools that are supported by Rotary clubs. And they came and served on Saturday, and we were able to plant 40 salmonberry in an area that we've been clearing for the last couple months of invasive plants, mostly blackberry, Himalayan blackberries and holly. So it's nice to start seeing some things go in the ground that are part of our natural environment, and that was lots of fun.
All right, excellent. And with that, I do think we have covered everyone. So let me clear the screen. I actually did have time to make a PowerPoint this year for this time. So let's try this. Oh, wait, no. Stop. I always forget that I have to share the sound. There we go. All right, so let's go. Welcome to our meeting. We start our meetings with a land acknowledgement, and it goes something like this. We acknowledge with respect that we are on the ancestral homeland of the Coast Salish people, in particular the Duwamish, the first people of Seattle and much of King County, who are still here and continue to embody and practice the strengths of their indigenous culture, teachings, and values. Can you not see?
We can see the slides, Kimberly.
Oh, you can. Perfect. We need to protect and honor the history of this Duwamish land and our indigenous neighbors, the Snoqualmie, Nisqually, Snoqualmie, and Muckleshoot tribes for their enduring care and protection of our shared lands and waterways. Sorry, that wasn't quite as smooth as I wished it was, but it is sincere. Now we will talk about Rotary International's commitment to the environment. We are committed to supporting activities that strengthen the conservation and protection of natural resources, advance ecological sustainability, and foster harmony between communities and the environment. We empower communities to access grants and other resources, embrace local solutions, and spur innovations in an effort to address the causes and reduce the effects of climate change and environmental degradation. Just a reminder why we're all here. So on the 7th of, sorry, I forgot, I thought I had the date on there, but I apparently don't. So on November 6th is our movie night fundraiser. Tickets are $5, and we are partnering with the nonprofit Wild Fish Conservancy, and we are showing the movie The Serengeti Rules. And I think I have arranged it so you can hear the sound, but let's try it this time. Shout if you can't hear.
There's a sign when you get off the airplane there. Not the end of the world, but you can see it from here.
They said, "Can a birdman study buffalo?" I said, "Of course, I'll study anything."
I knew nothing about the ocean, and he said, "You'd be perfect for this."
I just had to be underwater for the rest of my life.
This remarkable band of scientists went out into the world and just followed their passion and their curiosity.
I've always said that science is detective work. But at the time we started, nobody knew anything at all.
Instead of one spider monkey in 10 years, I could see 10 spider monkeys in 10 minutes.
The wildebeest in their huge numbers were determining everything inside the park.
I was stunned. I had never seen anything like this before. Whether it was terrestrial or aquatic, whether it was Arctic or tropical, it was all working in the same way.
We've found the rules, how systems work, how the world works.
This was a major deal.
The clear message is that some animals are more important than others.
If you lose the wrong ones, if you lose the keystones, you're going to see very big changes.
What does this mean for you and me? It means we can use this knowledge to upgrade the places around us.
Nature can heal itself.
And I have to say, I watched only the first 20 minutes, and it's a fascinating film. So I suggest you go to our website at givesome.com and get some tickets. It will be shown on Zoom, much like our meetings. Then the following Saturday, we have a tree planting party at North City Park, where native trees will replace invasive species that Judy McCulley has been diligently working to remove. It is part of the Green Shoreline Days, and anyone can attend who wishes to show up. It should be a good time. Then the Saturday after that, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., you can volunteer at the Beacon Hill Food Forest downtown in Seattle. There are many different activities, and that will be added to the GiveSome website as soon as those details are available. Everyone is welcome, and again, no experience is necessary. And now I am delighted to present our guest speakers, and I'm going to do my very best to accommodate the chat rooms. How do I make you a co-host, Lisa?
I think you go down if you go onto your participant list, pull that up, and then by my name, or frankly, more importantly, Bobby's name. Although if you could do both of us, go to the, if you hover over us, there'll be a more, and you can say make co-host.
Ah, excellent.
And then we'll be able to set up those breakout rooms. And while you are getting that set up, it looks like I'm gonna pull up my slide deck, but I see that Sam has joined us. So Sam, you missed the intros, but I'm sure this group has done some good, the first session I came to, they talked a little bit about Project Drawdown. So if you want to introduce yourself briefly and share about your game, I think that will be of interest, and then I will have the slide set ready to go.
Sure, definitely. Thanks, Lisa. So sorry I'm late. I had a meeting that went way over time. But yeah, my name's Sam Levaclavi. I have a background in mechanical engineering. I currently help run Work on Climate, which is one of the most active climate communities on Slack. And our goal is to help people who want to work on climate but don't know how, and help them actually find jobs or meet people through entrepreneurship, get investment, do climate work within their organizations. And then I've also developed a board game inspired by Project Drawdown. So it's a board game about climate solutions. And the goal is to get people to, first of all, expose people to all the amazing solutions in Drawdown that many people have never heard of before. And so a game is kind of a fun way to do that. But then also, while playing the game, you naturally think critically about the solutions and engage with them. And so it's a vehicle for that as well. And then the idea is that after playing, you can actually pick your favorite solution and turn it into a real world project. And we're developing a whole backend to the game. So each card has a QR code on it, and you can scan the QR code and get exposed to resources and inspiration for what you can do and how you can turn that solution into something real, which we actually have some pretty cool examples of already.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. And I think it'll become clear, if it isn't already, why I'm looking at games and ways that we can make climate change conversations more accessible to people. So that's how I cross paths with Sam and many of our other guests today. Quick housekeeping question. Can you all see my slide, but not the notes? You can see the slide. Okay, perfect. Yes. Thank you. So as I have mentioned in my other times I've attended and in my introductory comments, I'm Lisa Yaeger. I am currently kind of a mid-career master's student studying in the master's program at the zoo. I'm so pleased that Eric is here today because he got to hear about this project much earlier in its iteration. I was so curious on your thoughts and perspectives on what you see has changed, Eric. So I'm working on a climate conversations project, and I have support for that from Unexpected Productions, our local improv theater company, as well as the North American Association for Environmental Education, where I'm serving as a Sea Change Fellow. That fellowship is focused on the intersection of environmental engagement and civic engagement, environmental education and civic engagement. And they've also provided some grant funding to help get this initiative started. And so you might ask or wonder, what does improv have to do with with climate change? And so I'll talk a little bit about the background and how this came to be. But when I was talking to Kimberly about coming to share this, I can certainly wave my hands and describe and show you slides, all the live long day. But rather than doing so much telling about it, I figured we would show and have a bit of an experiential experience for you. This is definitely a work in progress, so I'm very, very interested in getting your feedback and thoughts, particularly as I talk about some of the challenges that we're facing. And so this is meant to be as much of an interactive conversation as anything. So there will be built-in points, but if at any point you have thoughts or questions, I'm happy to tackle those. So one thing, as I started my graduate studies, and I sort of was very interested in, how do we deal with this climate change challenge? Because all of those ecosystems that we saw in that beautiful film trailer, one of the most pressing challenges, existential crisis for all of them and all those animals and all the animals that James and I talk about and interpret for visitors at the zoo is climate change, right? And so I don't know how many of you are familiar with this speaker and climate scientist. This is Katharine Hayjo. Thank you. Bobby has just posted her TED Talk in the chat. One thing that I mentioned when I visited Seattle 4, and some of you may recall I'm actually a former member of Seattle 4, but I was talking to Eric and that committee, is that Katharine's talk from 2017, really talks about the importance of really just talking about it, right? Because we have this sort of spiral of silence around not talking about it. And one thing that you'll love about her talk is, I'm not going to get the minute right, but at about minute 12, she talks about going to her local Rotary Club and talking about climate change and using the 4-way test and grounding her conversation in that set of values, because that's like what was going to be most meaningful. The other thing that's cool about Catherine Hayjo is that she has this new book out that came out last month. So if you're like me, now that I've mentioned her name, you'll start seeing her on like the night show circuits and CBS Morning America. She's sort of everywhere promoting this, which really does sort of underscore the importance and value of this kind of work. And in a nutshell, most Americans want to talk about this, right? There's growing concern, the most concern we've ever seen. So concern is at an all-time high, and yet still nobody's talking about it. There are a lot of barriers and perceived, that it's not a norm, right, for us to talk about. And so that's where this sort of project has its kernel, because the tools of improvisation really are all about helping people have conversations, helping people listen to one another, co-creating a conversation with a partner. And so that's sort of how this initiative got started. And now, I can talk more, right, about about what this means and how all that supports doing this. But I'm going to come off the sharing and invite us all together so that we can have an experience of this together. So we are going to, so that picture was a museum, right? We're going to create a quick climate museum around, we're going to create a mosaic that might reside in this museum of how do people really feel about talking about climate change. So guess what? We got a bunch of people here, right, on the call. So I'm going to invite you, if your birthday is January through June, please turn your cameras on if you're willing and able and don't have naked kids running behind you or what have you. And so you're going to be the artists, right? This group of us, we're about to create a mosaic. And the rest of us, what the heck are the rest of you doing? You are docents or curators in this climate museum, okay? So I'm going to count down in a few moments and invite the artists to, when I get down to, from 3, 2, 1, go, right? When I get to go, this question, like, when you think about talking about climate change, how do you feel? What does that bring for you? So strike a pose or make a face or grab a prop, I'm like a Viking, whatever is nearby, right? So when I count down to 0, our job if we're on screen is to strike that pose and hold it. The rest of you are going to take a look at that as the museum curator, as the docent. What are you seeing in that image? And we'll hold it for a few moments so that you can really take a look and observe. And your job is to notice just three words, to describe what you're seeing. What does this tell us about how people feel about talking about climate change? Type that in the chat, but we're gonna play a variation of a game that either you or your kids or grandkids have maybe played of the floor is lava, right? In this case, that enter key is lava. So type in the 3 words, but don't hit enter. And Bobby has just beautifully put the instructions in the chat. And so anybody have any questions before I count down for our mosaic participants?
Yes, can you just repeat the question we're supposed to think in our head before we make our pose?
Yes, yes. When I think about climate change, talking about climate change, this is how I feel. Okay. Any other questions? Thank you for clarifying, Bobby. Okay. 3, 2, 1. And so hold the pose. Curators, docents, take a look. Notice what you're seeing. Are there common themes? What kind of thoughts or feelings does this evoke for you? Maybe look around individually and at the aggregate. So So get those 3 words and go ahead and type those in, and then I'm gonna let us break if we're on camera. Take a breath, shake it out, and let's switch. So those of us who are on camera can come off. If your birthday is in the second half of the year, you guys come on. And again, don't hit enter when you type the words. Enter key is lava. So ready to switch? Any questions, group 2, before I have you strike your pose? So camera's off if your birthday is in the first half of the year. And that's down in the lower left-hand corner. Camera's on if your birthday is in the second half of the year. Okay. And counting down 3, 2, 1. Let's see those poses. Oh, okay. Excellent. So hold that while the rest of us can write our 3 words. Again, don't hit enter yet. Okay. And break. Wow, those are really beautiful. All right. Ready? Some people had the enter key was there, it cooled. The rest of us, the enter key has cooled. And so let's go ahead and enter and see what we got up on the screen. What kind of themes? I see, yeah, there's lack of clarity, uncertainty about maybe how to go about doing it, fear, hope, a little bit nervous, frustration. I see definitely lots of people seeing frustration, hesitation. Great. Anybody have any reflections or observations looking at that in total before we jump back into the, you know, how does this align with the what the research says?
It's all negative.
Yeah, I was going to say it all seems to be more on, if we look at the spectrum, more on towards the negative side of words that we would use to describe things.
Right. There's a few sprinkled in, right? Like, oh, you know, I'm thoughtful. I'm pondering. I have some hope, right? Yeah, but you're right. There are few and far between. What else?
I noticed we had one fighter.
We had what? One fighter?
Yeah. Or maybe
was
that was
it?
just really angry. I don't, well, that was Pauline.
Okay. I
Oh,
don't think
no,
I
that was
saw Pauline.
frustration. That was total frustration.
Okay.
Well, I'm noticing something, Lisa, and actually Ellen put it in the chat, which is I was very impressed by how everybody introduced themselves. I'm new to this group, so I thought this is a group of, you know, really conscious climate talkers, and even we, you know, the collective you, feel this way. So I think that's really telling versus, you know, sort of a average public. The average public might feel even worse or even more scared or more confused.
Right. Well, that brings up an interesting point. You know, when I met Sam, he was test driving his game with a group of trained climate communicators with the National Network for Ocean and Climate Change Interpretation. And so we should feel very confident playing this game, right? And you can see how Sam's reacting here, right? We had a lot of debate, like, oh, we're not sure. Like, we thought we understood these solutions and we're just supposed to put them in the order of which ones are going to have the most impact. And we're supposed to know this, and you know, maybe we don't. So it can feel, yeah, there's a lot of barriers. I think that's very, you know, astute observation. All right, so I'm going to jump back into the slide deck. Thank you all for playing. And that gives you a little bit of a sense of, I think, how some of these games and interactive activities can play a part, right, in helping to make these conversations, you know, real. And so what is this, you know, how does this line up with what data and statistics show, right? So there's this great study that that's ongoing with Yale and George Mason University, where they're really looking at what do Americans really think, right? And so they've broken Americans into these sort of 6 categories. And by and large, the majority of people, are very concerned and curious and feel like something needs to be happening. But as I think some people even put these words directly in the chat, right? It is a taboo and sort of politicized subject right now. And so for me, and James certainly knows about this and can weigh in because has been along for this journey, but as I'm learning that as a graduate student, I was like, holy Moses, and there were some good resources and research papers saying like, guess what? Like informal learning environments would be the perfect place to have these conversations. And that's where that National Network for Ocean and Climate Change Interpretation really got their start. It was like, well, let's get people trained, to do this. And so that has been a great effort. And it's pretty labor intensive to go through that training for the reasons that we've all just been talking about, right? Like there's some serious hurdles in knowing how to frame and to pivot when those conversations come up. So what about the volunteers? Because they are really on the front line. So like James and I, are out there at Woodland Park Zoo, but we aren't equipped necessarily to have these conversations. And so that's really what this project is sort of grounded in. And so quick overview, I mentioned the NOKI folks and their resources. And so using that as an initial sort of framework, I worked with James and others on the docent training committee to put together a training pilot for volunteers at the zoo. And we had over 100 people show up. So there was a lot of interest in doing this work and started to play with how and where could we use these techniques from improvisation to help with those conversations and to help with that training. And so I put that together with this NAAEE fellowship, and they were also very interested in that intersection of like, gosh, yeah, bringing art in to, help support these important conversations. And I would say even taking something that's so scary and serious, like climate change, and finding ways to play with it. Because play, in addition to just, heck, it's fun, right? And we as humans and really other mammals, right, want to do that. We have that. But also that's what allows us to think creatively and work more collaboratively. So there's a lot of good things to be had from improvisation and play in this space. So what's coming up later on this project, and I'd love to be able to sort of, provide periodic updates if and when we have time for that, are these listening sessions and kind of focus groups with regional organizations that are doing this kind of work and might have volunteers that can benefit. And then in the summer and fall, moving forward to actually take this training, iterate on it, and deliver it in those other settings, as well as start to build the scaffolding that will help support it by way of having a solutions repository, which I'll talk about briefly in a moment, and a support network, a community of support, because it is kind of scary. You guys made the perfect face, right? I went out on grounds at the zoo here, and I'm like, this is Seattle. This will be easy, right? I'm gonna use these framing techniques from NOKI. I got this. And so I'm talking about the heat trapping blanket, which is this tested metaphor that people understand about to explain climate change. It's been through the ringer in terms of testing. And so I'm delivering it confidently. And sure enough, the first day, a lady says, I don't believe that. Right here in Seattle, right? She says, I don't believe that. I think that, and I said, okay, tell me more. Like, what about it, is sticking for you? And she said, I believe that it's happening, but it's due to natural causes. And so, these kind of things that are going to happen. And so having a place to go back and go like, all right, I was ready, and here's how I handle that, and what are some other ways, other techniques. So that's what will be coming by way of supporting the folks that are doing this. So this training content sort of falls into 4 main categories. One is just the basic science and the knowledge. Second is the impacts. What is happening, that is happening now, and what impact is it having? Third is these solutions, because it's really important. It can get, dark pretty quickly if it's like, this is terrible, right? It's having horrible impacts, too big, there's nothing we can do. So we got to quickly move past that to like, no, there are solutions, and that's where this drawdown resource and things like Sam's game are awesome, right? So that people can see themselves as sort of the hero of the story and use the tools that they have to be able to have these really critical conversations. So we're back to a show don't tell situation, and I love the comment Judy thinks about learning through play. So I am gonna, if I can find my toolbar, I'm gonna come off of sharing. Oops, maybe.
Yeah, sometimes it's really hard to find that little bar.
I know, I don't know where it went.
Sometimes it's on the top. Sometimes it's halfway down the middle.
Sometimes it's, who knows where. Let me make your window a little bigger, and that might help potentially.
And also everyone else, if you can't get rid of it, Lisa, everybody can go up to the top where it says,
I got it.
Oh, you got it.
I got it.
My solution will have to wait.
I know. So I wanted to give you a quick taste of sort of how an improv game that we have been playing with a little bit to help reinforce the understanding and conversations about those impacts and solutions. So if I could get 4 volunteers to come on camera and engage with me and be brave to play this game. Okay, I see Judy, I see Kimberly, I see Janice. So the rest of you can go off. I see Christina, is that 5? So the rest of you, so Judy, Kimberly, Janice, and Christina, keep your cameras on. The rest of you can go cameras off. And so the rest of you have a job, which is to really kind of notice and observe and see what your thoughts are about this application. So the 5 of us are going to play an improv game called I Am a Tree. Has anybody played this before who's on the screen? Okay, no worries. It's pretty simple, and I'm going to walk you through it. And Bobby, you feel free to jump in if there's any additional direction or clarification. So round
closest
one,
I've come is the yoga pose.
What's that? Yeah,
the closest I've come is the yoga
I'm a
pose.
tree yoga pose. We are going to get physical and move around a little bit. So I'm going to just teach you the initial game, the way it's somewhat traditionally played, right? So I am going to begin. I will be the first player, and I will come on and say, I am a tree. The next person, when you're so moved, can jump in and think about what might I be in relation to this tree. I'm a squirrel, I'm a nut on the tree, I'm the breeze blowing the tree, I'm the chlorophyll and the leaf on the tree, right? Whatever you feel like being, okay? So I'm gonna start. Anybody what questions do you have before I just throw you into the game?
Well, you said it was moving. Do we have to do an action like you, or just?
Well, my example, I'm gonna say I am a tree. So these are branches, I'm a tree. Sometimes, in this game, people might be a thought or a concept, so you can, wave your whatever physical representation of the thing that you're being.
Okay, so we do have a physical response.
Yeah, some kind of physical response.
Got it. I am a squirrel.
Anybody jumps in? Yes. So what are you, Christina?
I am a squirrel on a tree.
Excellent.
I am the roots of the tree.
Beautiful.
I am a baby bird in the tree.
Nice. And Janice?
I'm the heart and the sap and the center of the tree.
Beautiful. You guys got it. So since I started, I will say I will take. Well, we'll just swipe and we'll do a round 2. So go ahead and break. You guys got it perfectly. Shall we do one more round just to get the feel of it? Anybody else want to start? You could be anything that you want.
I'm the leaves of the tree.
It doesn't have to be a tree, but okay. You're the leaves of the tree. I am the car driving past the tree.
I am the playground in the park next to the tree.
I'm the kid picking the leaves.
I'm the person trying to save the tree from being cut down.
Beautiful. Okay. So now the application of this to climate stuff, right? How might we make that connection? So the next picture that we're going to make together, based on what you know, and I know this group knows a lot, let's paint a picture of some of the impacts, challenges, problems associated with climate. So we're going to paint a picture of the climate impacts and the science of climate change.
So I'm the heat bearing down on the earth.
I am the heat. Oh, go ahead.
I am a blackout.
Yes, you are. I am the heat trapping blanket that's keeping the heat in the earth, in the atmosphere, the CO2 gases and
I am the
gases.
plant withering from the heat.
I am the invasive species that are coming in and choking off the life of the normal life forms.
Beautiful. Okay. So you could see where we could have, oh, somebody come back. Okay. You could see where we could have lots of conversation about, what was in that picture, how is it interrelated, how that ties us to systems thinking, et cetera. And so not to leave us in that dark place, let's paint a picture of the solutions. So you can be a variation, you can take what you were before, or we'll paint a different picture, but showing the solutions.
I'm a battery.
I'm a healthy tree canopy over the forest.
I'm a plant giving off CO2 back into the atmosphere. Or wait, oxygen, my bad, taking CO2, giving oxygen. Oxygen.
I'm a piece of fruit on the tree in the food forest.
And the battery keeps the electricity going with renewable energy.
I'm the solar panels that help keep the energy.
Perfect. All right, thank you. Excellent. So that gives you a flavor and a taste. Thank you, Bobby.
Everybody needs applause.
I know, for sure, for sure. So we'll jump back in. First of all, for the players, how was that?
I declare Christina and Janice the winners.
That was fun.
Well,
Yeah,
the good thing is it's a collaborative game, right? So we all win or lose together, and I think we all won.
Yeah, I'm going to hold that against you, Kimberly, for not choosing.
I mean, you and I were okay, but really.
I thought everybody was pretty awesome. And, you have to be a little bit brave to, jump forward. I asked for volunteers. You didn't quite know what you were getting into. So thank you all for doing that. What about you guys who were observing? What did you notice or see? And how does that strike you as being, maybe a little bit different than a traditional learning or discussion environment?
I feel like moving your body into the position can kind of like make you internalize what you're saying a bit more than otherwise. For
sure. And it was interesting in the session that I was talking about that, Bobby, and then we teed it up. The subtitle for the session was "A manager, an improviser, and a scientist walk into a bar," because that's who presented the session. And so it really seemed like we would share some information, kind of like what we just did. So in that case, more information about the actual solutions and more information about the impact. So that's them, consuming. But then, okay, how do we embody that and make sure like people really get it and can start to articulate those concepts? Yeah, thanks, Sam. So especially kinesthetic learners, right? Other thoughts or observations?
I have a question for those who played. Describe how hearing what somebody else said, how did that inspire you?
it was kind of a building experience. You know, I took what Lisa said and tried to incorporate it into what I was thinking. There was like a story that was told through the all 5 people, because she didn't say we had to stay on tree.
Right.
Right. So she chose a theme that she was, and we kind of played the theme out. So that was it was interesting to see that kind of relationship.
And I take back what I said before about Christina and Janice winning, because it really did feel like it was a group team activity rather than just one person giving a lecture.
Yeah. And when it comes to climate conversation, just one person putting one idea out there actually inspires. I watched you sort of like hear each other and make a decision and then make an offering. And in improvisation, you know, people always think that improvisers have this well of, you know, never-ending well of great ideas, and we do not. What we have is the ability to listen to other people. So what I saw in this round was this great listening going on. I mean, like, oh, right, they said this, that makes me think of this. And so this idea of just say anything, and it will inspire other people to say something as well. And that's the objective here, right? Just talk, just start the conversation. Yeah, I thought you guys rocked. It was awesome.
I think also with it, along with the story, you create a connection that sometimes, especially in a group that maybe you just come to or you don't know, that already you've made a connection that can foster the willingness to be more open and share other thoughts and start those discussions where, I mean, they talk about them as icebreakers because of that. So this kind of can start that ice-breaking conversation. So.
Yeah, maybe our next meeting will start out the introductions with "I am a tree."
Well, the good or bad news, depending. I think it's good news. I mean, I think, you know, because of you know, my association and the amount of time I've spent with Bobby and folks like Bobby, I do have, you know, a well of those kind of activities that we can draw from if and when you're wanting to use those. Kimberly, for our meetings. I'm going to pop us back into. Actually, I don't want to fool around with the deck because the next activity gets the rest of us a little bit engaged in the conversation as well. So I'm going to invite other folks to come back on, and so this one is more about applying those concepts actually to a conversation. What I like about what you all were just observing, right, is that it gives you a chance to practice those principles without worrying about having a real conversation. You're just playing, you're just making a picture together, right? But all those things are happening and you're co-creating, you know. But now we're going to turn to a variation of an activity that you've probably heard of before called Yes and. But this variation is really great and you can bring it to your Thanksgiving table because this variation, and there's a research paper coming out about it, is called Thank You Because. And so what we're going to do is Bobby's going to send us into breakout rooms after we have a chance to explain what this game is. Oh, go ahead, Bobby. Do you need to get the...
I was never made co-host, so
I see.
Yeah, I think the problem is I made Lisa the wholesale host, and so I don't have the ability to make her a co-host.
That's good to know. That's good to know. Okay, what's interesting, the reason that you did that is that I actually don't see the setting to be able to make a co-host. So I will go, if you're okay with that, Bobby, I will make you the host. I know that you may have to leave before you wrap up, in which case you could just pop it back to one of us.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm changing, and sometimes, Kimberly, that has to do with the way the Zoom account is set up. So, you know, I don't think that was,
sorry,
that wasn't
I
anything
meant
you did
to
wrong.
check that and I didn't.
That's fine. It's no problem. So I'm glad we caught that, because as I kind of set this up and explain it, I can, Bobby can be setting up those breakout rooms. You're going to be in groups of 2.
I'm so sorry.
You can't?
Even as host, there's no option for breakout rooms.
Okay.
Which
Well, then
I've
we
never
won't.
seen before.
I know.
I don't know.
Surprise. So what the improvisers do in this situation, and I don't know
Roll
who's
with
read
it.
Alan Alda's book, we go, thank you, I failed, right? Like something unexpected happened. Okay, we'll just keep going, right? So what we can do is a couple of us can play this. And so we can maybe have a few rounds. Are there two folks who feel particular? I feel like maybe Bobby, you and I can model it first, and then we can let two other people try it. Does that work?
Sure. And then I can actually spotlight. I can do some spotlighting, so we don't have to have everybody turn their cameras off. I can spotlight two players to.
Great. Okay.
But we can start.
Yeah, we'll start. And so this is pretty simple, right? And we're gonna. It helps to do it at first with something that is a topic, a point of disagreement, but perhaps something that is not a really big deal, like I don't believe in, vaccinations or something. So we can pick something. Does anybody have like a topic like this, like smooth or chunky peanut butter? I mean, improvisers love to ask for suggestions. So do you have anything like that? Or dogs are better than cats? Or spring is much better than fall? Anybody have
favorite flavor of ice cream?
Ice cream flavor. Great.
Okay.
All right. So, Lisa, I want you to know that vanilla is really the best flavor.
Thank you, Bobby. I appreciate hearing that you feel so strongly about it, because I don't know that I've ever encountered anybody that had such strong feelings. I really I'm drawn much more to chocolate chip. That's much better in my opinion.
Well, thank you, Lisa, because I never really thought of the chips, somebody interested in something with chips as being like a favorite flavor. So thank you for revealing that to me. And I would continue with saying vanilla is, basically you can put anything on vanilla and make it taste like, something else. Like chocolate chip actually is vanilla with chips in it. So I just think that vanilla is really the way to go all around.
Thank you. That's a really good point, because I never really appreciated the universality. And you're right, it is very, very flexible. That said, I still really am going to advocate for chocolate chip because chocolate, man, chocolate's got theobromide in it, and it's just a feel-good, thing. So I'll pause us there. All you do is say thank you because, and then you make your counterpoint. Does anybody have questions before we get two volunteers to play another round? Okay, do I have two volunteers?
It's easy. Is anybody here opinionated?
Judy?
I choose Christina.
Christina has opinions. All right.
I get them from Judy.
And then who else?
I get them from Judy.
Together.
I think Christina's nominating Judy.
Judy. All right, Judy, I'm going to spotlight you.
This is becoming kind of too real, isn't it? Like,
and
you could use them in family settings. Okay, and so do you all have a particular topic in terms of dogs versus cat, or seasons that you disagree on?
Or things that we actually in real life disagree on?
Or just having a strong opinion about anything you have a strong opinion about.
Vegan versus meat eaters.
Awesome.
Okay, sounds good. And so how about you'll know the answer to this, I don't. The person with the longest hair can start.
Oh.
That's Christina.
Okay.
So I just wanted to tell you that being vegan or eating a vegan or plant-based diet is really the way to go for many ways, including health and the environment. And so that's really what is the best, I guess, food choice people have.
I appreciate hearing that. And I've heard that before. I still have questions though about the how balanced a plant-based diet really is. And
so remember to start with thank you because.
Thank you because it allows me the opportunity to share information. That's probably not what you're saying, right, Lisa?
Right. Something you heard her say, right? That that was maybe new or that you appreciate or value in what you heard her say.
So thank you for sharing that about vegan and plant-based. I had not really thought that much about how vegan related to a plant-based healthy diet. And I appreciated hearing that.
Beautiful.
But the balance that you're able to achieve through eating plant-based vegetables and salads and things that come from the earth, I think are complemented by also eating products that are beef or chicken or meat-based products.
Thank you. Because I think that what you talk about with making sure that diets are well balanced is extremely important for just overall health for a person, making sure you have enough of the building blocks to create the energy you need to live and survive and thrive. And I think it would be important to, if you're talking about a well-balanced diet, exploring how all the world can create and have these balanced diets, especially in places where meat is extremely expensive and is not as easily accessible. At the same time, understanding that with a plant-based diet, it doesn't just mean salads, and there's a lot of foods that you can eat that are complete proteins and complete carbs and will give you the energy that you need. And I want you to think about some of the animals themselves who are vegan and plant-based, including a gorilla, where they have a lot of energy, but they eat a vegan diet. The same with cows, they eat a vegan diet. So just thinking about the animals themselves and what they would eat and can still survive as long as we don't kill them.
And so last segment, Judy.
Well, thank you for sharing information about the options that a person who chooses to eat vegan has around complementing their salads and their vegetables with proteins. It made me think about the beans and some of the other more plant-based items that are packed full of protein and could contribute to a good balanced diet. This one's hard. I don't know what
I actually think that's enough. I think
that's enough.
That's totally enough. Yeah.
Bravo.
Yay.
Well
Everybody
done.
give them a big hand.
Yes. Big applause. Thank you for playing that out. So before we open it up for the observers to reflect, how was that for the two of you? What did you notice?
Oh, you mean us participants?
Yeah, Judy and Christina.
Oh, Christina is much more versed in the vegan diet and she's able to articulate that approach that I am on the, a diet that I grew up with and have been, just so comfortable with all my life, which includes meats and vegetables. And that I really applaud Kristina's knowledge. She's a great daughter. I mean, great woman.
Probably both, right? I noticed that, Judy, for you, I'm curious about how this felt, because at the first one, you were ready, like, which so much of what we do in our conversations is, I'm waiting for the other person to stop talking so that I can make my point, right? And so that first round, it seemed like you're like, oh, I have to stop and say thank you because, okay. And then but you did that very beautifully. And then the next time it seemed much easier and it became much more a natural part of how you were doing it. So I thought that was really great. And thank you for being brave to like model that for both of us, as the two of you, because I think that that's what a lot of us, would experience. What did others who are observing, what did you see or thoughts that you have on that exercise?
I noticed that it really slowed the conversation down. And instead of the two of them being in a reactionary mode, it was very much like, okay, I'm listening and I'm proving to you I've listened before I go and make my point. So it really like scaled the energy down, which is probably good when you're disagreeing with somebody.
Especially since the topic at hand that, applying this to climate, right? For better or worse, it has, particularly in the past 5 or so years, become very politicized, right? So anything that helps bring that, turn that down a little bit, is helpful. Nice.
And to kind of build on that. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
To build on that, I think that in order to say thank you because, you have to very actively listen. Like you can't just be waiting your turn to speak. Like you have to pay attention to what the other person is saying in a way that I think sometimes people who argue don't do.
Right. Great. Any final thoughts or observations? Yeah, Janice.
It points out the process that Kimberly was referring to, where we are habitually in the habit of going to the, shall I say, attack mode of presenting our position without acknowledging that the other person has a right to their opinion and what that opinion is, and that we heard that opinion and we're asking them to hear ours in a respectful and diplomatic way.
I think if I can add it also, I agree, Janice, with everything. And it also slows, for instance, if you have a lot of opinions as I do about, diet and health and that, is that it kind of allows you to go to one thing instead of inundating them with all the knowledge you have in one breath. And they're left kind of like, well, I don't know where to go from here because that was way too much. It kind of has you do one thought or a couple thoughts instead of everything. So I like that.
Yeah, it is a retraining. Go ahead, Bobby.
Well, in improvisation, when you perform improvisation, you are asked to make short offers. So an offer in improv is anything you say or do. So if I, walk on stage, I say, "Hi, Mom," that's an offer. If I walk on stage and I cross my arms like this, that's an offer. Everything's an offer. And you can't say too much because then you're writing a monologue. So, you don't say, "Hi, Mom, it's so nice that we're here in this house that we shared with Dad until he divorced you and now we're alone eating raw fish together." Like, if you say all that, then you have monopolized the conversation. So improvisers are taught to make short offers and listen. And so that's part of this particular exercise, of course, which you experience, which is the slowing down, the taking in, and not responding with the internal script that you have running in the back of your head. and considering what you have right in front of you. And as Lisa said, with, climate change being politicized and people having skepticism or wherever they're coming from, this slowing down and creating short offers and appreciating any offer that comes to you. Those are lessons from the world of improv that, in our world of creating climate conversations, we want to adopt.
Great. So I was going to transition and get back to sort of going through the description of the initiative and what's coming up. But are there? I know Kimberly, it looks like you're saying you have a question. Do you want to go there at this point, or do you want to hold off? I'm flexible.
I'm happy to let you finish your presentation, but if you could save maybe 10 minutes for questions, I think I have a few.
Beautiful. And I actually also have a feedback form that I would really love for you all to share your thoughts and reflections on, because this is very much a work in progress. Are you seeing the slide deck again?
Yes.
Okay. So we just did the thank you because. And so I think even those of you who didn't have the experience of being spotlit, I think you can probably have some empathy for what that was like, right? I talked a little bit about this plan, the solutions repository, so that as volunteers are kind of getting their tools honed, right, to be having these conversations, they can talk very specifically about what's happening in our area, particularly the research behind some of the NOKI framing and communication strategies really shows that if we start talking about, national policy or, worldwide stuff, that's really hard. People start to get into fatalistic thinking, and they can't get grounded in being part of that solution, right? Whereas if we can talk about what's happening regionally, like the fact that Seattle City Light was the nation's first green utility, or that King County has a solid plan to get to 80% carbon reduction, by 2030, or that the Buy Nothing movement that we maybe I'll take for granted now on Facebook started right here at Bainbridge and turned into a whole global thing. Wanting to make sure people have those things at hand. So, the other piece is these conversation cafes that I mentioned, right, where people can go back and have that support, and whether that would be virtually through a Facebook platform or regular cafes where we come together, that's all something that's getting formulated right now. And as you kind of percolate and process on all of this, and over time, since I'm planning to join you as a member, you can share those things as they occur to you. I wanted to ask you, just as we move to close here in a few minutes and get to the questions, because I know Kimberly said that she and probably others have them, that solutions, putting it into a rubric like this where people can think about it by sector and at the community level, citywide level, and state and region level. I've started populating this. If James is still with us on the call, I'm planning to sort of bring this to our next conversation with some of the zoo volunteers, because I think they can readily help populate this with conversations they may already be having. But I wanted to ask you all as well, if you look at this chart just off the cuff, right, and you see something that would fit into one of those categories, please feel free to type that into the chat so I can, save the chat and take that away and continue to help build this out. The other thing just to know about, and that I would love your input on in the feedback form we're going to give you, I've been exploring, different pilot sites. And so I mentioned that we'll be having like a listening session and a, feedback / training session to help see who might be the next best place to take this. So you can see the list of, what's here, including you all, right? I count you as a pilot at this point because we've just been playing with some of these things. But if there are other organizations that come to mind. Similarly, in terms of the existing tools and expertise that we've been tapping into, I've mentioned, NOKI before and the Applied Improvisation Network. If there's others that come to mind that that you think, hey, you should really connect with, this group or that group, what have you. It would be great to hear about that. This is a duplicate of that slide, sorry. Challenges and opportunities. It has been a challenge to, talk with zoos and other organizations like that because they've been hit so hard by COVID. And while they're interested in this, they're really kind of full up in terms of trying to rebuild their staff and build back. That Noki organization, I do sit on their governing council now. Similarly, they are in transition. They were housed at the Monterey Bay Aquarium and the New England Aquarium, and those organizations have had to say, we're sorry, we can't support you. So I'm helping them in that transition, but they don't have a lot to put behind this right now. I talked about those questions with the solutions repository. So in addition to the content, the delivery of that in a way that's going to be easy to access. Those are all things that I'm grappling with right now. So as you kind of process this conversation and maybe think about what you might suggest on the feedback form or in our conversation in a second here, I wanted to put those specific questions out there. And so that is sort of, I'm going to stop sharing now because that does get us to the feedback, which Bobby did put in the chat. So you can fill that out as we wrap up. And it sounded like Kimberly at least had an initial question, and others may have conversation items as well at this point for our last 10 minutes or so.
Thank you so much for this delightful presentation. This was so useful and so interesting. So sincerely, thank you. One of the things that I find the most challenging with discussing climate change and one of the things that makes it not surprising that the more expertise someone has, the more worried they are, is the mental toll of the scale of the challenge. And this idea that the science is in flux, like we don't know when the point of no return is, and we may have blown past it already, or we may be able to reverse it, but we don't know if it's reversible. And so do we make our lives that much harder? Like, this is something I personally struggle with. Like, do we make our lives that much harder and less comfortable for something that, even if a whole bunch of us work towards it, isn't going to be enough? Like, does the scale, how do you like get around the idea that the scale of the challenge and the uncertainty of the solutions is so overwhelming that people don't take any action at all?
Right. I mean, I'd be curious how, others on the call would respond to that, because you're exactly right. That is a very real thing. And there's a lot of things that I'm seeing around the emotional toll this takes on the people who are working on it, and how to have that resilience. Within the Noki training, I don't know if Ellen is still on the call. I mean, we're really taught to kind of focus on the solutions and that sort of civic element, and where and how, and that's where the project drawdown is so helpful, because that's a great showcase. And I think, was it you, Judy, who brought it forward to the one meeting? Yeah, it does such a great job of pointing to, like, okay, people, yes, it's a big deal. And, here's 100 solutions that when added up, we're measuring and actively monitoring. That's what's on their website, like the actual impact these are having, to show that it is doable. But it's quite daunting. You're right. What do others have? What are others' thoughts in response to Kimberly's question? Because it's quite real.
Well, I really understand what Kimberly's saying, and I have personally felt some responsibility as an elder in my family and in my community and in my church, and it's feeling responsible for not doing something earlier. I look at some of the young, the senior high school, young college kids who are out doing something to make a difference, and it gives me a lot of hope, as well as a little grieving, because I should have been doing some of that earlier, but was busy doing other things. But I think there are things, in the Echo Challenge under Drawdown has helped me see, as I participated in that personally, those solutions and some of the things I can be doing now and I can have an influence over. And I think also being more aware of some of the policy changes that need to be made. I think the worst thing we could do is not have any hope. And to think, well, we might as well just go out and, continue destroying the planet because we've already done it and there's no return. I have a very strong faith. And so I know there's a reason for everything that we're going through. But I also want to do my part right now to do what I can to educate my children and my grandchildren, and to work in the forest. I mean, I find a lot of peace and a lot of hope as I do my forest restoration work, small bit of our community. But it's very rewarding and I feel like I'm doing something positive.
No, and I don't want to give anybody the impression that I have no hope. Like, the reason we have this club is because I do have hope that we can make positive change, and that it is a bunch of small actions that actually makes real change. And so, but it is something that I struggle a lot with.
So something I can quickly add just in terms of how I think about this. I mean, climate's really an exponential problem. It's really serious and it gets worse and it makes itself worse, right? We have feedback loops, ice caps melting, that makes things even worse and worse. But the solutions to climate are also exponential. And I mean that from a technology perspective. Obviously everyone knows about Moore's law, and that applies well beyond computers. It applies to the way we build on each other's knowledge. And so really across the board, I think solutions are exponential, but I think not just from the solution standpoint, but also from a social standpoint, social change is exponential. And I don't know if you guys have heard of the 3.5% rule, which isn't a direct study on climate change. It's more about overthrowing corrupt governments. But basically, studies have found that throughout all of recorded history, there's never been a group movement that has had 3.5% of the population actively supporting it that has failed. And basically, it seems like all you need is to get 3.5% of a population actively advocating for something over a sustained period of time. And at that point, every single person mathematically at least knows someone who knows someone who's really, really involved. And so the way I kind of see things is climate's an exponential problem, but the solutions are exponential, and we're kind of in a race to see which exponentials are going to win out. Will it be the good or the bad? And that's up to us to decide.
That's actually a really useful way to look at it. Thank you. I didn't mean to capitalize on the questions. Anyone else is welcome to.
It looks like Douglas was about to.
Yeah, I was going to say something, and thank you, Christina, Kimberly, for, it's like, I find myself, it just becomes overwhelming what we need to do. And I appreciate being a part of this because it gives me more hope, being a part of the group that we can do something. Thank you.
One thought I had was, it occurs to me there's a sort of prisoner's dilemma element to this issue that people are not willing to talk about much, it seems like, in the sense that, people feel like, oh, okay, well, what if I make major sacrifices to help save the planet, but the rest of the world doesn't, then we'll still end up with, a planet that's, overheating, and I will have lost something in the meantime. And so I think this idea of, people, I just feel like that's something that's sort of behind a lot of people's resistance. I mean, there's a sense of overwhelm. It's like, how can I do anything? And then, you do something. But when it comes to making serious, changes, I think issues of, oh, okay, do we all sacrifice, or do some people sacrifice for no reason and then everybody else keeps doing what they've been doing?
All right. Well, thank you all so much, and especially thank you to Lisa and our other illustrious guest speakers. And with that, unless there is something else for the good of the order, I call this meeting to a close. Thank you very much and enjoy your week.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Lisa. It was really informative and helpful, and I appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. And did you all get the link to the feedback form that Bobby posted? Because it will be really helpful to, get your perspectives and thoughts and insights about how to move this initiative forward.
I'll definitely include that on the email.
Oh, perfect. That'd be great.
Yeah, that's helpful.